throw it over to Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Warden. I'd like to make a motion that we move the CAO success plan to our budget policy meeting for review.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Marquardt. Any discussion on that matter? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to move the CAO success plan to the bylaw policy committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. So you have the agenda in front of you. It was circulated last week. Are there any errors or omissions to the agenda as circulated? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. So moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson, that we adopt the agenda as circulated. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is a review of the minutes from the last Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 11th, 2025. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes as circulated? So hearing none.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 11th Committee of the Whole meeting. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Marchand. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. So we have two presentations this evening. The first, a little bit of snow today, sadly, but we have our first presenter is Nicole Brian, the General Manager for Strait Area Transit, regarding connecting communities. So this is going to be virtual for those folks who are following along at home. These slides you can find on page 13 to 30 of your package. But we ask our presenters to stay within about 15 minutes, so we'll throw it over to you and say welcome, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Warden, and good evening, councillors, and thank you for having me this evening. I'm just going to share my screen here so that we can pull up the presentation. Doesn't seem to be allowing me to share my screen.
We'll get you hooked up.
Okay, try now, Nicole.
Okay. So,
Perfect.
I believe we can see that now.
Great.
So to start it off, we'll jump into Strait Area Transit's vision, which is to help create communities where everyone can access services and opportunities that they need to lead healthy and connected lives. And then our mission statement is that we provide accessible, supportive, door-to-door transportation options to all of the residents of Inverness County, Richmond County, and the town of Port Hawkesbury, with a focus on those who have barriers due to age, health, mobility, and finances. Jumping into our board of directors, so we have the chair, Councillor Blaine McCrory with the town of Port Hawkesbury, our vice chair, Councillor John McLennan with the Municipality of the County of Inverness, our secretary and treasurer, Councillor Amanda Mumbergat with the Municipality of the County of Richmond, Councillor Paula Hart with the town of Port Hawkesbury, Councillor Claude Poirier with the Municipality of the County of Inverness, Councillor Sean Sampson with the Municipality of the County of Richmond, and Cara Lee Burke with the Department of Opportunities and Social Development. And then we have our staff, which consists of myself, our dispatcher, Donna McDonald, and we currently have 11 drivers, which vary from full-time to part-time. So who funds SAT? So the Government of Canada. We recently received quite a substantial fund for 3 new Ford Transits, which we purchased between 2023 and 2025 from the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. We have an HST rebate, which does vary. We receive up to 50% of HST on qualifying purchases. The province of Nova Scotia, there's several programs underneath them. So we have the Community Transportation Assistance Program, which provides us $226,657 per fiscal year for dial-a-ride operations. We have our Public Transit Assistance Program, which provides us with $50,000 for capital purchases for our fixed route per fiscal year. We have our Accessible Transportation Assistance Program, which provides us up to $75,000 twice per fiscal year for dial-a-ride capital purchases. And we have our Fare Assistance Program. This one does vary as well per fiscal year. The current fiscal that just ended, the 2024-25 year, we received $7,100 to subsidize fares for qualifying low-income individuals. And then we also have the Municipality of the County of Richmond, which contributes $100,000 toward our dial-a-ride services yearly. The Municipality of the County of Inverness contributes $112,000 per year. Theirs is broken into their fixed route service as well as their dial-a-ride contribution. And then we have the Town of Fort Hawkesbury, which contributes $6,000 per fiscal year. An overview of our current fleet. So we currently have 7 vehicles. We have a Dodge ProMaster, 2 Dodge Caravans, 3 Ford Transits, and a brand new Chrysler that we just received this fiscal year. We also do have 2 buses, which are coming. There's no official date yet, but we're hoping for early summer, which is going to help expand our fleet. So what are the dial-a-ride services? So this service has to be pre-booked at least 24 hours in advance, Monday through Friday, from 8:30 to 3 p.m. during the office hours. The drivers will wait for 5 minutes past a scheduled pickup time if a client is not present, unless they notify us and let us know there's an exception, which of course we would allow for. And the service is subject to availability. So it is community-based, pre-booked, door-to-door, and it's fully accessible. So an overview of our Richmond County dial-a-ride ridership. So for the 2021 year, the rides we provided was 1,870. Also noting that it was during COVID, so we would expect that they would be lower. Same with 2022, starting to bounce back from COVID. There's 2,582 rides. We definitely saw quite an increase in 2023 with 6,036 rides. So kind of getting back into, a good ridership for dial-a-ride. And then for the 2024 fiscal year, we were at 4,916 rides for the Richmond County dial-a-ride. And then we also have a fixed route service. This one runs Tuesday to Friday each week. It runs between Port Hawkesbury and Inverness. It's run the same as a dial-a-ride service, so it needs to be pre-booked the 24 hours in advance, Monday through Friday, and we do have a complete timetable and suggested stops available on our website and by request. So current driver requirements and responsibilities. They must possess a valid driver's license, so a class 4 or higher. They must hold a clean driving record, a valid criminal record check, as well as a child abuse registry check. They are to transport passengers to and from their destinations, follow all provincial and federal transit regulations, ensure the vehicles are kept clean and tidy, collect failures and issue change, stop at the scheduled stop and not leave stops early, and assist passengers as needed with opening, shutting doors, carrying groceries to their door. If a passenger has high support needs, they can have an attendant travel with them free of charge. So the ways to book a ride, residents are able to call us. So they're able to email the dispatcher, and they can also fill out a form on our website. We will respond to the request as soon as possible during office hours, but bookings are not 100% confirmed until a representative from SAT is in contact with the client to verify. Our current fare structure. So currently, a resident can travel anywhere within our areas for $9, $18 round trip. We have a $200 monthly pass that they can travel unlimited within our service areas. We have a $650 student semester pass and a $1,020 full year student pass. That would be for like a calendar year from September. So we do have an additional charge of $1 per kilometer outside of our coverage area. We charge a $30 wait time for stops that last over an hour, which is prorated to a quarter hour. And any extra stop must be booked at the time of the reservation. The extra stops will be at $9 per stop. And we do reserve the right to charge a 50% cancellation fee in the event of a last minute cancellation. We do have exceptions to that, such as a medical appointment being canceled at the last minute or a client being ill. So our payment options are currently as follows. So cash to the driver at the time of boarding. We accept e-transfers to the office. And we also can set up monthly billing to businesses, organizations, and clients upon request and approval. So our current advertising, the biggest one is word of mouth. Our clients have good experiences when using our services, and they recommend us to their friends and family. We keep business cards for our drivers to hand out to clients, and we also have them at the office. We recently printed and distributed flyers within all the areas we service, the different organizations and businesses. And we also have our social media, so our website and Facebook page, and that lists our most up-to-date contact and service information. Any closures, etc., would be found on those sites. So different ways to contact us. So our office location is at 47 Payne Street in the Walmart Shopping Center. Our mailing address, we can be contacted by phone, the 2 emails there, dispatcher and general managers, our website, and our Facebook. And that kind of sums up my overview of where Straight Area Transit is today.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. That's really helpful as somebody who has seen Straight Area Transit and arranged for transportation for some folks. I didn't have a good sense of the overview, so that's really appreciated. I'll throw it out to any councillors who may have any questions. Councillor Marchand?
Thank you, Nicole, for the presentation. Nicole, on page 6 of your presentation, where you have the fare assistance program,
Yes.
can you say a little more about that? Like the regular fare is $9 one way. So what does that cover? Do they get the full rebate?
So we have an application, and it does change each year. It is through our Rural Transportation Association. So there's different income thresholds that the client would have to fill out the application, and then it comes to myself. And based on their income, we can cover up to 75% of their trips, up to $200 a month is the guideline for that. The threshold this year, I believe, was under $31,000. under, I believe it was 41,000 for a couple. I would anticipate that that will probably change with this new fiscal year.
So when you say up to 200 a month, can they get a monthly pass on that? Or 75% of the monthly pass?
I have done monthly passes, so what I would do would be get them to, you know, pay the $50, and then we would cover the other $150
Okay.
to allow them to be able to travel all month, yeah.
My last question is the ridership numbers from 23 to 24. Do you have any explanation for that, or are people giving you a reason why they're not using it, or?
So my biggest explanation with that, I would say, Brian, is that in 2023 we did still have a 16-passenger bus that we unfortunately did have to retire in that year. So it's definitely limited the amount of people that we can take at one time. And also that would be up to, I believe, February's numbers. We wouldn't have marches included in that yet because the counts wouldn't be finished yet as we just finished the fiscal year.
Okay, so there could be more than the 4916 then?
Yeah,
Okay.
there would probably be, I would say, roughly ballpark, maybe like an extra 700 or so
Okay.
added, give or take a little bit.
Okay, so it would be pretty close then.
We would be pretty similar, yes.
Okay, thank you, Warden. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
That's great. I think many of us were going to ask that question, so yeah, that's great. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Membercap.
Thanks, Warden. So thanks, Nicole. Great presentation. I did want to just also note that from an internal controls perspective, you know, it wasn't really covered in the public portion of this presentation, but there's been a lot of work done on internal policy development, financial controls tightening. We're working with an auditor as well as a bookkeeper to you know, make sure that the information we're providing to councils is you know, is spot on. I also want to mention that, you know, the fleet renewal that Nicole touched on would not be possible without those tightening of controls, tightening of policies, and the support of both the provincial and, you know, and federal government at times. So, so kudos, Nicole, to you on your work for that. One of the things we've recently introduced, taking a lesson from our budgeting process, is a bit of a capital plan for the fleet and our property and equipment, that type of thing. So we've got now even that type of process in place where, you know, the board can clearly see what's coming up, and hopefully that will, you know, help us prevent future situations where she just described to you, Councillor Marchand, where, you know, we had to retire a bus. It resulted in a reduction in, you know, in traffic. What we want to be able to do is more proactively plan for that kind of thing, and those practices I think will help. So, thanks, Nicole.
Thanks for expanding on that, Councillor Membercap.
What I didn't hear is a question about our contribution in this fiscal year. You did make reference to our previous contribution. Is that something you feel, you know, should that be where we land? Is that something that your group can manage? Has there been conversations about that at this point?
We haven't had a conversation yet as a board. I'm just kind of getting into doing our budget as the fiscal year just ended. But I would say that would probably be a good figure to ask.
So we'll wait to hear from you via letter or something else around thoughts around that. Yep.
Absolutely.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you zooming in. It was great to see you, and thanks again for the information.
Thank you very much for having me.
Bye, Nicole.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, our second presenter is Celeste Gotel, who is the Community Outreach Coordinator, together with Dorothy Bernard, who is the Chair of the Senior Take Action Coalition. And their presentation is around the Seniors Take Action Coalition. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So I see that, Celeste, you're on your own there. Dorothy's going to supervise from over there, which is just great. Yes, once you're speaking, yeah. So I'll throw it over to you.
Is it on? Dorothy indicated she'd join me when it was time for her to speak. She's a little shy.
So we have about 15 minutes in total, so
Yes.
we'll turn it over to you. and
Great.
we'll-
Okay. Good evening, Warden, councillors. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come and present a few words this evening on Seniors Take Action Coalition of Richmond County. I wanted to acknowledge that we have a large number of people in the gallery tonight. It shows the dedication of many of our board of directors and representatives from seniors clubs and their dedication to this organization. So thank you for coming this evening. So the title is, as it says, a picture is worth 1,000 words, because I didn't want to kind of overwhelm you with a lot of text, although some of you may have read it already and recognize there is a lot of text. But I'm a bit of a storyteller, and I like using pictures and images to tell a story. So the story of Seniors Take Action Coalition began in the fall of 2015, for those of you that are not aware of that. And it began when I moved back to this area and started talking to seniors in Richmond County and asking them about what the issues were. And as a result of it, I was able to recruit a number of people to join a planning committee to organize a conference. And a couple of the people here in the room were on that planning committee. And we organized a conference in the fall of 2015, and 160 people showed up. And we had the day, and we spent about what were the things that mattered to older adults in Richmond County. As a result of that conference, there was a desire to continue with this work, and people felt as though there was a need to work together in partnership and collaboratively to start addressing some of the things that impact seniors in Richmond County, recognizing that almost 50% of the population of Richmond County happen to be 55 years of age and over. 33%, close to 33% are 65. So in conjunction and in partnership with Community Links, which is a provincial organization now known as Aging Well Nova Scotia, we set about to start the coalition, and that was formed in January 2016. So we're just a year shy of a 10-year mark. So a lot has happened in 10 years, and part of our success is attributed to the fact that we had access to staff support through Nova Scotia Health. Happened to be me, and it's not about me, it's about the fact that the organization had the ability to have access to professional staff support through my position. And for 8 years, while I was in various roles with Nova Scotia Health, I was able to support this organization through my paid employment. When I retired in 2023, much has changed in Nova Scotia Health, and the role of health promotion is not quite the same as it used to be. They're more focused on specific issues related to housing, poverty, and some of their priority areas. So that support that I was once able to provide is no longer available. So when I retired, they actively start seeking out some project funding, which they've been able to bring me on board to continue with some of their work. So I call Seniors Take Action Coalition the little engine that could. That happens to be one of my favorite childhood books. I've given that book to probably 25 people's babies over my lifetime, because I really think that this organization has accomplished a tremendous amount of work in the last 9 years with a group of dedicated people, access to very few resources, but has been able to change the culture about what we call age-friendly communities and how we view the contribution of older adults in Richmond County. So I'm not going to go over what our vision, mission, and objectives are. You've all had an opportunity to read that prior to coming this evening. But I just wanted to kind of point that out, that it is a little engine that could. So why is Seniors Take Action Coalition so important to Richmond County? As I mentioned earlier, Richmond County has an aging demographic. 46% of its residents are 55 and older, 32% are 65 and older. Many of the volunteers in Richmond County are older adults. And I'd like to note that last year, in 2024, every volunteer of the month was an older adult. Every month. When you featured your volunteer of the month, it was an older adult. They are contributing thousands of hours to volunteer organizations in this community, and they're doing it. They're tired. They're saying, we want a break. They can't leave their organizations because there's nobody to replace them. And they're saying, you know, we don't mind doing this, but we need support. We need staff support. Our organization benefits from having people like me, who happen to have some expertise and experience to do programming and stuff. They say that they're benefiting greatly from it. A lot of our older volunteers are simply burnt out, and they're wanting to kind of change what they do. They would like to just show up and not have to do all the planning. Well, things are not going to happen unless we can kind of start thinking differently. We also have a reputation of being an organization that brings partners to the table, and the only way that we can get our work done is if we collaborate with others. So we have strong working relationships with many organizations and our senior clubs throughout Richmond County. And the other most important thing is why we're important is that we support the municipality in your commitment to create an age-friendly community. That is spelled out in your strategic plan in terms of ensuring that your policies and programs reflect an age-friendly community and improve the quality of life. And we're doing that to help support you to achieve that particular goal. There are a lot of highlights that we've achieved over the year, but I'm just going to kind of focus on a couple. We've been involved in a number of conferences. A lot of what we've done is actually directly related to the 8 tenets of an age-friendly community. So one of them, for example, is communication. We know that communication is critically important, and some of the activities that we're directly involved in have addressed that. So by creating the Better with Age newsletter, we're 4 years in, 16 issues. We're celebrating the achievements of older adults. We're getting information out there through that newsletter. The calendar that we are producing, which is now apparently one of the most popular shows on Teleo, from what I'm told, my weekly calendar, we're getting information out there. So communication is a really key part of an age-friendly community. We're actively involved in the housing for a number of years. We had a member of the coalition that was involved with the Straight Richmond Housing Coalition, or Straight Richmond Housing Matters Coalition. We also did a housing survey to find out what the needs of seniors' housing were. So we've been involved in that. We've been involved in providing services around health and social services, which is another tenet of an age-friendly community. But one of the things that we do the best and the most is social inclusion and reducing social isolation. So a lot of what we do is addressing that. Not to mention, we have been involved with discussions around transportation, building infrastructure, and all those other things which are key to an age-friendly community. The other thing that I think is really important is that we get involved in issues that matter to seniors. So we've been very effective in being able to kind of voice concerns around issues to all 3 levels of government. We ensured that we had a voice around the importance of a voluntary vulnerable sector check, which I know it wasn't because of us, but we certainly were at the table and advocating for that. For successive governments, we sent letters around shingles vaccine. Well, hey, we're now getting the shingles vaccine. So these things matter, and to have an organization that actually voices the concern of seniors is critically important to being successful. The other thing that we do really well is to, I got to get my glasses here. Another thing that I think we did exceptionally well on, which I wanted to mention, is because it's a key thing that the municipality was involved in, is we were very supportive of the Acting Collectively project. And it's because of the work that we do, Seniors Take Action Coalition, and our involvement with partner groups and seniors clubs, that we had 102 people participate in that research project. There were 222 people that participated across the entire 3 counties, and 102 were from little old Richmond County with 9,000 people. And that would not have happened without Seniors Take Action Coalition. So, I mean, and I think we have a continued role to play in that regard because the results are out now, and I think that we can support you in that regard going forward. So I just wanted to give you, these are just a few things that kind of highlight some of our achievements in the last couple of years. One of the most notable achievements is that in 2023, we became registered as a not-for-profit organization, and this has opened up doors for us. So now we can actually apply for funding, whereas before we were having to partner with organizations. And we've had some success in that area, and we'll continue to look for funding to continue with our operations. We also produced our first annual report, which is very exciting. So there's lots of information that's available, and one thing that's really kind of nice is that the Richmond County Municipality now has a dedicated section on their website for seniors resources, and we work very collaboratively with the municipality to ensure that we get everything put on there. So I'm always sending stuff to Shelley to make sure that we get it posted. We've had a number of very important conversations that have happened since COVID, because COVID really impacted older adults and the way that they interacted. So we've kept bringing people to the table to be able to have conversations about how do we re-engage people, and how do we make sure that we're addressing the priorities of older adults. There's a number of ways that we communicate. We have a very active Facebook page, over 830 members. Since January, there's been 200 posts to that Facebook page. We provide a lot of very useful information. If you want to know when the emergency room is closed at the Straight Richmond, you go to the Facebook page at Seniors Take Action, among a whole host of other information that we're able to provide. I think the calendar is providing a very useful resource to people. It's a very quick go-to ability to kind of know what's going on. How's my time?
You've got about 3.5 minutes left.
Out of 15? Okay, I'm going to wrap it up at this point, because you've all had a chance to read it, and it's on page what of the report, on the page 13 to 30?
It's on page 31 to 49 of the package.
Yeah, okay. One of the things that we're doing right now, and I'm going to pass it on to Dorothy, because this is a twofold ask. Originally, when we requested to come, we wanted to keep you informed of what we were doing, but we're also going to be looking for... So Dorothy's going to join us, and she's going to speak to the last couple of minutes about what's coming up, and here we go. Dorothy's our board chair.
So I have to say, I read all the material that you get before these meetings, and I thought, crumb, you guys need help. That was a lot of work. It makes you feel tired just looking at it. So I think...
No idea.
Yeah, I bet. And you had to actually understand it and digest it. I think, well, the reality is that we're right now financially robbing Peter to pay Paul. And the argument really is what we would give you for the amount of financial support that we have asked for is really quite significant. And having a somewhat secure foundation to actually hire somebody to support the organization then would free us to be able to plan into the future and also move more towards other things that we can look into in different ways. And so the other piece of all of this is, so for example, the Acting Collectively report, what I read out of that is really people in Richmond County aren't really wanting to use the resources that they're not familiar with. They'd much prefer to use resources that they, like, either they know or they have some knowledge from somebody else, or they know it's local. And so those are things that we can actually help to more formally identify and then come up with a suggestion about how it might work. And I think it would be tailored to the people that are here, not really like a lot of the resources were online or outside of Richmond County. So I think that's definitely an area that we can have a significant impact on. And the other is, so I think you're also being asked for money from raising the villages, for example. And so we do have connections with them as well. And one of the projects they're looking at is community hubs. So far, their community hubs have been centered around buildings. But what we're suggesting is for Richmond County, the Center Without Walls is a better model or a better fit for here. So use the infrastructure like we already have in place, but start supporting more of the seniors clubs and the community organizations that have buildings that allow people to go and get services or enjoy the programs that they can apply. And so those are things that we can, like we have a different viewpoint. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes to make any decisions about the money, but I do think that we're really a bargain.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we very much focus on all the social determinants of health at all the work that we do. So I think we have the ability to kind of see it through that lens, which I think is critically important to healthy outcomes and to really improve the overall health and wellness of a community.
Thank you very much. We don't include questions in the 15 minutes, so we still have a little bit of time. So I want to thank you very much for your presentation and also for the thoroughness of the information included in the letter that was attached to the presentation, which is available to us. So I'll throw it out to any councillors. Councillor Membercat?
Thanks, Warden, and thanks, Celeste and Dorothy, for your presentation this evening. I would say, first off, don't underestimate your level of influence on the Voluntary Vulnerable Persons Registry, because that came directly from your team. So thank you for suggesting that, and that would have started with the previous council to the one that's here now. We never would have launched on that path without Seniors Take Action. Nor that section on our website. So, don't undersell yourself. But I guess what I'm wondering is, as you kind of look out onto the next year and you're seeking some, particular funding for some particular activities, do you see, you mentioned raising the villages, like, do you see a partnership there with them potentially? Or do you, I guess I'm just wondering, like, how could that work be best supported? What you've asked for is in the scheme of a municipal budget, is a fairly small amount of money, but there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of seniors groups to support. So just want to hear a little bit about how you see that kind of rolling out a bit.
Push the button. Yeah. It takes a second for the camera to swing.
Do I press?
Oh, go ahead. You're all set.
So I sit on the board of the Raising the Villages. So that's one connection, but I think the other piece of that is really, Celeste has done a lot of work on the concept of a senior center without walls. And so the partnership would be they're seeking money to do pilots in different areas, including Richmond County. We would work with them because we have a model that's under development, it's not completely developed, but that is an idea that then they can examine to achieve the same things that they're trying to achieve with their structure-based.
I also wanted to mention that I've been involved in discussions with them, particularly around intergenerational programming as well as Cape Breton Family Resource Place. So these are two partnerships that we will be exploring around intergenerational programming. I also wanted to mention that we have 6 funding applications in the queue, with our fingers crossed, hoping that they will provide us with funding, but that's all project program funding. It's not operating funding. So it's all well and good to apply for program funding to deliver programs, and hopefully we'll be successful. Some of those are programs that are much needed in Richmond County, including intergenerational programming. But what you need is that kind of funding that provides the oversight and allows the organization to be able to focus on creating an organization as well and building capacity in that regard. So.
And the other thing I was supposed to say is that your previous Seniors Council has merged with Seniors Take Action Coalition, so at the moment we represent both very effectively.
Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Sampson?
Yeah, not so much as a question, but as a thank you to your group for everything you do. I think if there's ever a prime example of a return on investment, your group is that example for sure. So everything that you do for our county and the seniors in our county is great. It's hard, like you say, when you talk these numbers to us, 46% of seniors, of people in Richmond County are 55 and over, and 32% are 65 and over. And 38% of those are living in low-income situations. The work that you guys do is extraordinary and appreciated by, I can say, everybody around this table. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Councillor Marchand, do I see your finger?
Thank you, Warden. Thank you for the presentation. You never stop coming, Dorothy. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned about transportation issues and social isolation. Are the events that you put on, is SAT being used at all, or are you guys aware of this dial ride? Is it not working for you guys, or?
We are very aware of it. And I do have a couple of questions that I'll be asking them during the question period specific to that. We do have some people, we have made it available for some of our events. There's not been much of an uptake. We have particular needs within Richmond County of people who are very isolated due to mobility issues, but the mobility support that they can provide doesn't get them to, like, some of these people need personal caregivers to come as well. So it's not proven to be as successful as we would like to get people to events. However, I just recently heard that they're providing free transportation to Cora. So I was curious about whether or not we could kind of strike a similar deal so that we could get some of our folks, because $18 is cost prohibitive for some people to actually attend an event.
It's free to the traveler, but I believe the program contributes.
Yeah, so.
But for people that need someone with them, those people are transported for free, the personal caregivers. Yeah. And then there's the assistance program as well that may help. So maybe you can look at that. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you. I do just want to clarify something. There are no questions of presenters at question period, and Nicole is not with us. So it's just questions for councillors. So we wouldn't.
Maybe you can answer the question.
Sure, you can. Maybe. Yep. Yeah. So thank you very much. Dreams are free.
Yeah.
And my name's spelled incorrectly.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where is it spelled incorrectly? In the agenda? Oh, apologies. I have a name that is often spelled wrong too.
I wanted to get this off for you.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, so we're going to throw it out to councillors, Councillor Marsh.
Yep.
Thank you, Warden. So I'd like to make a motion to defer the financial request for support from the Seniors Take Action Coalition to our budgeting process.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor, okay. Everybody wants to second it. So I have Councillor Sampson. I saw your fingers up first. So moved by Councillor Mumbercat, seconded by Councillor Sampson to defer the request for funding to budget deliberations. Any discussion on that matter? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. So you're welcome to stay and watch the whole evening. Question period is a little bit later, but you're welcome to sneak out if you're at your leisure if you like. We're pretty hard to offend here. So we'll move on to new business. We have a number of items under this agenda. I've lost my, okay. So the first one is the Nova Scotia Community Solar Program. So there's a staff briefing note on page 50. And it talks about steps to take a project from take a project from inception to completion. So wondering if anybody, should we be interested in this, we'd be looking for a motion for Committee of the Whole to recommend to Council to send a letter of support to the Minister of Energy for the proposed community solar projects in Richmond. So wondering if anyone would be prepared to make that motion, and we can take some discussion from there.
Warden, I'll make that motion to do what you said. Yep.
Seconded by Councillor Sampson. Whatever she said. Yep. So the request is for Council to send a letter of support to the Minister of Energy for the proposed community solar projects, which then trigger a whole series of other steps, which include community consultation and so on. So I'll throw it out for discussion. Councillor Marchand?
When you're saying the proposed, we don't have a proposal yet, right? Would they not come and ask us before they can move it forward for a letter of support?
Madam Chair, I asked the same thing. They come to you after they do their community engagement. They like to do the community engagement first, so they're looking for the letter of support first, and then they're going to come back and see council afterwards. It's
Basically a letter of interest.
It is. It is. You know, there's nothing committal with the letter of support. And as the warden said, there's many other steps after this. This is just, in theory, we're interested in pursuing this project in our county. So that'd be both of them. It's the same proponent.
Trying to get to the right. So yeah, so it on page 66 of your package, which is page 15 of theirs, they talk about the community engagement with municipal support. So then they have other steps, but I think they'd like to go into community engagement with some, sense that the municipality is supportive.
Madam Chair, if I may say
Go
one
ahead.
more thing. I think I throw a wrinkle in theirs as well. As I said, I wanted them to come to council, at least would give me something to go to council before you go to the public. So I threw a bit of a wrinkle at them. It's just I didn't want anybody going out and having community sessions without us having knowledge of it first. So.
Any other discussion on that motion?
Yeah, because on page 15, it just says some of the things they've done, and then on page 16, municipal support is the second thing after the community engagement. So they haven't done any community engagement. There was one of the sessions, I believe, that was virtual in that list of their engagement, the second one. So they haven't done any, right? The first or second or third?
To my knowledge.
Okay.
I actually gave them sites to go have their engagement at for the communities that they're looking at. Like I said, these are community halls you can rent. These are the people you need to talk to and go set them up. So they've done nothing to date at this point.
Students have a plan there.
They do.
Councillor Mumbercat?
Thanks, Warden. And I do think, to Brian's point, I think it is a letter of intent, maybe from the minister, or a letter of interest from the municipality, as opposed to a letter of support necessarily, because I don't think there's any point in encouraging the provincial government or, any group to come in and do community engagement when we have no intention of putting our support behind a project. I think it would be a lot of wasted effort. So maybe it's just in the wording that it would be a letter of interest.
Yeah, we took that wording from the two letters that were examples that are listed as letters of support. But I think it's semantics, but in essence, you are supportive of their path forward to see what kind of interest they get in the community.
Madam Chair, if I may say, if council would feel more comfortable, we could, at least now it's in front of you and it's here, they can go do their engagement, and the letter of support could come after they start their engagement so that you have time to get any feedback from the community, if you would prefer that. I'm sure that that would be fine with them. They just need this letter as part of their project. So whether they get it now or they get it in 2 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time, it's whatever your comfort level is.
I guess the whole thing of having the engagement is to find out if the public is okay with this. They kind of want the letter up front of support, and I'm not against supporting it. I think it's an okay project. But is the procedure, the steps outlined by the provincial government or the Department of Energy, that they would have to do consults, community consults first before coming for letters of support?
I'm unsure.
Okay. So our motion is just to provide a letter of support or an intent of support? I think we should, if we're supporting it, just go ahead and give them a letter of support.
Sorry, I cut you off on the microphone there. Sorry, unintentional, but I will say that the motion is to recommend that we send a letter of support to the Minister of Energy for the proposed community solar project. So I think we can send a letter of support that we are supportive of this process as it unfolds. And then, should community engagement result in outrage, we certainly are free to change our position on that. We can write back. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the way things are unfolding here.
Okay. Do you want to put anything about conditional? A letter of support is conditional on, or just not bother?
I'm happy to write a letter saying we are supportive of this process and watching it unfold. And if something comes up in community consultations to the contrary, we can address that in another letter if we need to. So hearing no other conversation on that, no other debate, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, go ahead.
In the two letters that were there, one of them speaks of their meeting, like they did go to council, right? Did I read that right?
Which one?
Yeah.
Sample letters.
One of the sample letters from Claire says presentation at council, and you did ask them, Troy, to come here, and what was their response?
They wanted to come after the community engagement.
After, okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Ward.
Because then that way they can tackle anything or tell council how they're addressing any of the concerns that came out of the community engagement.
All good? Okay. So all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the motion to rescind regarding a surplus property PID 751-789-05. There is a staff briefing note on there. It's on page 73 of your package. And we addressed this at the March meeting, I believe.
It was just last month.
Yeah, but new information has come to light that will lead to rescinding the motion. So should we be in favor of doing so, the motion we're looking for would be that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to rescind the motion made at the March 25th, 2025 regular Council meeting to deem property PID 751-789-05 as surplus property. So wondering if we can have a motion to that effect, moved by Councillor Marchand. Can we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson. Is there any discussion on that motion? But CAO, I'll let you have some.
If I may, Madam Chair, and this was you know, I got to fall on my sword here a bit as we were trying to establish a set process for dealing with surplus property and who's going to do what's the triggers and who's doing it. Well, we omitted one of our own departments, which was Public Works. So, and it coming through EDPC, through to PAC, through to council, et cetera. We thought we had everything covered. Sadly, we missed one of our own departments. And as soon as we checked with them, it's like, well, no, there's something about that PID. And here we are. So we're changing that process. This was an error, but it's going to help us with a better process going forward. And apologize to those landowners involved that may have been watching this one. But, all right.
Yep. Fair enough. I turned over to Councillor Mumbercat.
Thanks, Warden. So I guess, it's Public Works infrastructure that may need to go in there. Okay. And this is going to impact the landowners who would be interested in the surplus property in a potentially negative way. So could we maybe do some outreach to those who have expressed interest, or?
100%.
Okay.
Right in my memo, it's like we're going to continue to work with them to see if there's something else that will satisfy our needs to protect the rights and possible need in the future, and get them what they need with the surface. An easement of some sort may be possible.
Right.
Councillor Marchand?
That's what I wanted to ask. In your option 1, you say work with the resident. Is there someone that was interested in purchasing it, or is this the neighbor?
The neighbor.
The neighbor, okay. So it's not somebody that already reached out to purchase it?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The next item is note from Shannon Murie, the Director of the Department of Community Development and Recreation. The report is attached. No doubt really good information for groups applying for funding, and many thanks to the Senior Take Action Coalition for their support in that. The numbers of Richmond representatives, Richmond County voices that were heard in that are certainly significant. The motion that is being requested is that we accept the Acting Collectively Project Richmond County Community Profile as presented so that we can make it available on our website. Moved by Councillor Mumbercat, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Is there any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thanks, Warden. I just wanted to also thank the Dr. Kingston Memorial Health Center, because they were very instrumental in providing supports for this, as well as Seniors Take Action Coalition. Just a great job done by all. And I think Dorothy raised a good point that, it does highlight a situation where many seniors in our community are comfortable taking advantage of the services that they know about. It's, but something new coming down the pipe is often off their radar, and maybe some discomfort in attaching to those services. So it's really great information that hopefully we can see community groups use to create better outcomes for health and social outcomes for our seniors population.
Yeah, I really thought the information related to what 211 has on their site versus what they don't, and where people feel comfortable, was really, really telling, and I think really will help inform groups as they move forward. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, councillors? No, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, looking at page 7 of the document, it states that most of the people that participated at the bottom, Warden, on the notes, way at the bottom, it just states that most of the participants that took part of it were healthy, well-educated, and independent residents, and not as much as vulnerable residents. That to me is a little concerning, and when it comes to some of the recommendations I see here in the document, I'd like to see, again, for me, when it comes to engagement, if people are not going to come to you, how do we get to them? You know what I mean? So I'd like to see us try to see what we can do when it comes to the vulnerable residents in our county, right? To see if they can, if we can include them or get some kind of info that better details and includes these people, right? So, thank you.
Yeah, very good point. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to council to accept the Acting Collectively Project Richmond County Community Profile as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. The appointments for the EDPC staff is attached. It's in your package on page 131. It's in the form of a letter from John Bain, who is the director of EDPC. And each year we're required to read into the record the appointments. So perhaps I can read it, or I can ask for someone to make the motion, but.
Make a motion. We accept the list as. I'll make a motion that we accept the list of appointments for staff positions at EDPC as proposed by John Bain, the director.
We actually need to have them read into the record.
I'll do that then.
Effective immediately.
Effective immediately. Building inspection, building inspectors Andre Sampson and Sean Donovan. Assistant building inspector Todd Sampson. Alternatives, or alternates, Dave McKenzie, Jonathan Martin, and Luke Ross. Development officer, Andrew Jones. The alternates would be John Bain, Brendan McDonald, Kristen Scanlon, and Michaela Tate. Assistant development officers would be Todd Sampson, Hake Berkner. Is it Hakey or Heike? Heike Berkner, and Andre Sampson. Fire inspectors, Andre Sampson and Todd Sampson. Alternates, Sean Donovan, D. McKenzie, J. Martin, and L. Ross. The dangerous and unsightly premises, the administrator would be Sean Donovan and John Bain. The alternates would be Todd Sampson, Luke Ross, and Andre Sampson. The special constables for building, fire codes, dangerous and unsightly premises, land use bylaws would be Sean Donovan and Jonathan Martin. These appointments will stay in place as long as they are employed by the Commission or until they are replaced by new appointments.
Perfect. So do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing,
Chair?
yes, go
I'm
ahead.
just going to add one point that Todd Sampson started here today.
Yes. Yes, I saw him today, and he was hip deep in getting his affairs in order and the work that goes to the credentialing. So great to see him in the office again, to see the office being used again. So any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So the next item, which is on pages 132 to 137 of your package, if you're following along, is regarding two projects for which staff would like to apply for funding. And so they're looking for a motion, and I did clarify they actually are fine with one motion. That Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to support the applications to the province's Provincial Capital Assistance Program, PCAP, for the Airshot Water System Upgrade Project and the Construction and Demolition Debris Landfill Expansion Engineering Project. So that's the motion looking for. Moved by Councillor Mumbercat, seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson. So any questions on that motion? Go ahead, comments.
Just in case anybody picked it up, the PLC listed in that is a programmable logic controller, so that's the brain, right? So there you go. It's just the logic board for controlling things.
It's not the brand.
Not the brand.
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's what you said, it's not the brand.
It's not the
Okay, I
brand.
thought you said it was the brand.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns, queries? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The next items are grant applications. And I do want to make note that we have, so these two applications, the Rural Communities Foundation Nova Scotia grant request and Raising the Villages, so these are grant requests that came in before the fiscal year ended. So there is a note about, on page 138, it's a letter from, a memo from Kathleen Jeffrey, Interim Director of Finance, talking about which tier it would be if we were considering it into the new policy and so on. And I know we have some money left in our budget, and I believe we have an unfinished item on the agenda regarding an application from last meeting. So you have in front of you two grant applications, and I'm wondering what the appetite is for council to consider or move forward.
Yeah, I was figuring we were just making a motion to move these till after budget discussions, because generally I don't think we've approved anything after fiscal year end. Yeah, so I would be willing to make a motion to defer both of these requests till after the budget process has been completed.
So we have a motion from Deputy Warden Sampson, seconded by Councillor Mumbercat, to defer both of these items to the budget deliberation process.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Till after budget.
Oh,
Till after budget is, like, they would come back to a committee of the whole once the budget has been completed and we know what funding is available.
to consider them after the budget passes. Yep, apologies. You have that correction? Yep, okay. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So the warden's report is on page 188. If you have any questions, I'll entertain those. Otherwise, I would move on to the next item. Anybody have any questions? No.
Pretty busy.
Yeah. It's good to be retired. So we have an item that is verbal, but we do have some information that was provided to councillors from Councillor Mumbercat regarding the Government of Nova Scotia's non-resident deed transfer tax increase. It's a mouthful. So I'll turn it over to Councillor Mumbercat.
Thank you, Warden. So yeah, and I do apologize again to Shelley for not getting that information in before the deadline. I was waiting for some feedback from an external partner, and it just didn't come in time. So these things are outside of our control sometimes, but I did put a memo together, and you know, I think now that it's been introduced into committee of the whole, it can be part of the public package potentially for our regular meeting when it comes to council. So for members of the public who haven't seen it, they will get a chance to see it in the future. But basically, it's a memo that discusses the provincial deed transfer tax, which now applies to all residential properties or portion of property deemed residential with 3 dwelling units or less, including vacant land that is considered to be residential. The transfer tax is a 5% tax levied on the purchase price of the assessed value of the property, but effective as of April 1st, that rate for non-residents has increased from 5% to 10% through a change implemented by the provincial government. So that change affects all of the purchase and sale agreements signed after March 31st and any other transfers that happen after March 31st without an agreement in purchase sale. So some of the potential negative impacts, and I've discussed with some realtors as well as some sort of property managers in the county, they've talked about concerns that this is going to result in a decline in real estate investment because non-residents will be less likely to invest here in Nova Scotia and potentially leading to slower market activity. They've discussed, you know, potential for stalling residential development because there will be higher upfront costs, so potential buyers may choose not to invest, which sort of contradicts our goal of addressing the housing shortage. They outlined some concerns specifically around property transfers within families. So a lot of times we've got family homes here, cottages. If a person here wants to transfer that to a family member outside of Nova Scotia, those family members will get hit with a 10% transfer tax as well, which I think many people were unaware of, and I think sort of flies in the face of our desire to attract people back home and increase Nova Scotia's population in general. Some concerns were expressed around job losses and economic decline, specifically for, like contractors who would potentially lose businesses, impact to skilled tradespeople and suppliers, everyone from septic installers to well drillers to you name it. And I know that our rural economies do partially depend on new home construction to stay viable, and that certainly is evidenced by some of the statistics on, permit applications and issuance that we receive from EDPC on an annual basis. There's obviously, the glaring piece there is what maybe, will be perceived by an unfair double standard between property types and types of property owners. Resident versus non-resident, also resource assessed land, remaining taxed at only 1.5%, allowing large non-resident landowners to continue buying up massive tracts of land with minimal burden. It talks about, discouraging the very type of investment that creates housing, because non-residents, buying those smaller build-ready lots will be penalized with the 10% tax. Talked a little bit about economic impact, that, non-resident buyers don't just purchase land, they purchase, groceries here, and they employ our tradespeople and materials, and, that means fewer people will be spending money in our province, and how that could potentially lead to just an overall reduction in investment, because it will impact investor confidence in our province in general. And of course, sending a negative message about Nova Scotia's business climates, saying that we are not investment ready. That non-resident tax will definitely throw some cold water on Nova Scotia's reputation for treating newcomers and investors in a fair manner. And of course, concerns about unpredictable government policies for people who are, especially those who are in mid-sale or mid-purchase of negotiation of agreements, that type of thing. So all that being said, and I've got these outlined in 6 lovely bullets that, hopefully like I said, we'll see in the next package, but I am asking council to consider a recommendation to send a letter to Premier Tim Houston outlining these concerns and to encourage a reconsideration of the policy change, and or to consider at least making the change apply only to properties with existing dwellings, not land that could be developed into homes. Because that specifically could potentially, contradict our desire to create more housing here in the county. So I'll leave it for discussion, and I want to thank the folks who provided information, to all of the folks I talked to help me put this message together in a way that was coherent. So it's a lot.
So we have a motion on the floor, and looking for a seconder to spur on some discussion. Seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson. Anyone start off?
Would there be any consideration to, what we're dealing with now, non-resident, and they're talking out of province, if I understand correctly, would there be any consideration to, saying we're okay with out of country? Because maybe that's more what they're concerned about, is speculative buying from out of country and so on. And I think as far as even family coming back, to be a lot, there's still going to be instances of it, but a lot less so with out of country purchases.
I would like to say that there are some advantages to this tax, and particularly, first off, it isn't really non-residents, it's non-residents and people who don't intend to become residents within 6 months. So if you're purchasing a home and you live out of province, but you can commit to living here within 6 months, that doesn't apply to you. So there is that. But one of the things that I heard on the doorsteps again and again was that local people were being priced out of the market. And part of that is because we have people from out of province. So take our tax sales, for example. The part of the purpose of this is to give local people a chance to purchase property, houses and land at a slightly reduced rate. So at our tax sales, for example, if something goes up for sale, it will cost somebody who doesn't intend to move here within 6 months. It will mean that they have to pay 5% more. So there's already a 5% tax on everybody, and it's a 5% additional. And so I believe that public policy should be nimble enough to deal with the context of the day. And I actually would be really in support of this, or would have been in support of this 5 years ago when our property values were low. But one of the things that increased property values does is it increases our property assessments. And I don't think there was a time on the doorsteps that I didn't hear people concerned about our property assessments going up because the price of property has gone on. So I would like to see a time where we are less concerned about this, or we are worried about property values. That may be 5 years from now, but at this point, our skilled trades people, we have a shortage, and we have a shortage. The construction folks have talked about a shortage coming. So I think that I have, and there are, when it comes to estate planning for families who own cottages, it doesn't apply if you leave it to them in your will after you pass. So there are opportunities for people to engage with estate planning. But I personally think that the enhanced opportunity for local buyers at this point, where people have identified that they feel like they're being priced out of the market, is something that is important at this point. It does provide, they're estimating, I think I saw $12 million in revenue for Nova Scotia. That's not my driving concern. I think my driving concern is that we are seeing locals who are feeling like they're struggling, and this manages to give them a leg up. So I'm not in support of this motion. I'll throw it out to anyone else.
Warren, I wouldn't mind providing some comment on that. Okay. So I would agree with you on, looking for policy that is nimble, and that's why I kind of added consider maybe making the change to properties with existing dwellings, that type of thing. I feel like the intent behind this legislation, behind this policy, was good and right time, right? At the right place at the right time. But in my opinion, because of some of the concerns that have been raised by people who are investing now in property developments, it's a bit too broad a brush. It's not quite nimble enough. And I think that's why I'm suggesting, I'd like to see maybe some exceptions around family, some exceptions around vacant land, that type of thing. So, I definitely take your points, but I think it was just maybe a little bit less nimble than what it could have been. And I think there will be some unintended consequences as a result of that. So that's kind of where the caveat came in the motion that I presented. So.
Yeah, and go ahead.
There are exceptions listed there. And as you state, if the deed is, for a grantor, if they pass away, you can do it in your will, but one exception is the deed has to be registered after the grantor passes away. I agree with Councillor Marquette. The issue with family transactions, I don't see something very clear with the exceptions. And there's many seniors that want to put the name of their child on the deed. So I'll definitely be supporting that. There needs to be some changes. I know what the intent of it was, maybe keep property values down, and I did hear it as well from many people that they were being, the children of these people are being priced out. There is exemptions for like vacant land, but I think it kind of states commercial or resource. So if there's any part of it that's residential, so is it the zoning that has to be residential, or any piece of land can be whatever. Whatever the DPC zoning would be, probably. If it's a commercial zone, they're probably looking for R1, R2 zones as being non-taxable, or taxable, And I agree that if it's, but if it's a vacant piece of land and there's no tax on that, well, people are going to start arguing, well, if I want to buy a house as well. So the intent of this was to try to keep pricing down, but it's a tough thing. And what's in here for people that want to put the name of their child on their properties and having to pay a tax, even the the deed transfer tax, I think that shouldn't even be there for people that just want to put their children's name on it for being out of province. So I'll be supporting this.
Yeah, and I guess I acknowledge that, to your point about the unintended consequences around family. Anybody who has had a family member who has, intended to leave, a property to their children, there are many, many, many intricacies to that. And there's capital gains, and there's a whole lot of challenges around that. And I certainly don't disagree with that element of it, but I still feel that the vacant pieces of land, if we're concerned about the housing market, what we're saying is that we want people from out of province who don't intend to live here full time to not have, to have same sort of access to that or not have to pay any more. I think the point of it is, if there is even a 5% change or reduction for local people who want to build on there and live there full time. So that it's that piece that I'm not supportive of. I don't disagree with the family concerns. And to your point about the 5% and the 10%, the in and out, of province. Go ahead.
But for those of us that have children, or those of anybody that has children that are away, wanting to buy a piece of land, how do you resolve that? How do you put that exception in there? Do the children have to get their parents that are living in this province to purchase the land? So it's an extra transaction that's costly, because there may be children that want to come back that are out west and decide, I'm going to buy a piece of land and I want to come back, but I'm not living here in 6 months. So for those, they're an out-of-province resident, but they're planning on moving back home, when they retire or in a few years. So I just think, I know what the intent of it was, but the exceptions, and I'm not one for putting a bunch of exceptions, but I definitely think the whole family thing, because for myself, it's definitely right now an issue for us.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Deputy.
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a motion just to add in about that out of country be considered instead of out of province. And that doesn't mean in the letter being written that, we're stating this has to be the way to go, just that could be something to be given thought to, rather than out of province, that out of country. So I'd like to make that motion if there's a seconder. And, an amendment to the original motion, that another consideration be whether or not out of country rather than out of province may be. Yeah.
Well, you kind of spoke to that somewhat, didn't you?
I spoke in the description, but not in the motion.
I wonder if we could actually ask for a motion to amend that clarifies, that may add a point that somebody wants to add, but also maybe tightens up the motion, because I'm not sure if the and/or refers to what we want the Premier to do or what we want our letter to say. So is there an appetite to amend once or twice to add a thought about foreign ownership being out of country, and perhaps revisiting the original motion? I'm just worried about the and/or in a motion.
I think my intent would just be to add consideration to out of country rather than out of province.
Okay.
If there's a seconder.
So do we want to vote on that one and then do a different amendment, or are we just want to?
If there's a seconder, it may not be.
I'll be willing to second it, but I'm wondering if we could just get rid of the and/or, because I was providing that for council's consideration, right? So could it be that outlining some of these concerns and encouraging reconsideration of making the change apply to out of country? Do you know what I mean? Like, just to remove the and/or. Sorry, Shelley. I will write it down. I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To capture your point, but to clarify it a bit.
yeah, I was just looking to add. I think I was just looking to add that as a consideration.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on one, I don't feel like we have to tell them that A, B, or, I'm gonna put this, A, B, or C has to be done. It's just, here's A, B, and C as concerns. Would you be willing to consider these? You know, they may come back to us with one of them that they think is valid and the others they don't think is, but I think I was just trying to add that as a possible consideration, but I may have.
So the motion on the floor to amend is strictly to add consideration out of country rather than out of province. Do we have a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. So is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay, all those in favor of that amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. No, or sorry, motion carried with 1 nay. Me. Yep. And so are there any other amendments to the motion? So what we have is the motion as outlined on Councillor Memberquet's memo to us, with now the addition of considering out of country. Is there any other? Okay, so Councillor Marchand, you want to? Go ahead.
I'd like to move another amendment, and the amendment would be to consider family transactions as an exemption. Be it for,
exactly as is, comma, and consider family transactions.
yeah, for land or transfers.
As an exemption.
Yeah, in the list of exemptions.
Do we have a seconder on that? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Nay. Those, okay. So now we have the original motion plus adding consideration out of province plus an additional exemption for family transfers and sale.
Was there a nay on the family?
There was. Yes. So are there any other comments, concerns, queries, debate, amendments? So we have the original motion plus adding consideration for out of country plus adding an exemption. Okay, all those in favor of that doubly amended motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Okay, moving on to the Spike Fund by Deputy Warden Brent Sampson.
Just to clarify, it's Spike, not Spite. No. Just the people at home listening in case. Yeah, so yeah, very different mascot. I'll just read off the briefing note here. So yeah, I was contacted several weeks back by a Richmond County resident. They were concerned with rising costs related to participation for young people, especially when it comes to sports and other recreational activities. His family had interest in donating anonymously to help others in need of, help with such costs. And, they asked me about what possibilities there might be, and I said it kind of reminded me of a program I'd heard about a couple years ago at an NSFM conference. So the town of Kentville has a program run through the Recreation Department which helps families and individuals in need of financial assistance for recreational activities. So I attached the link on that, and all I'm asking for now is just that I'd like to move that we ask staff to investigate whether such a program could be feasible in Richmond County. I'm not asking to go ahead with anything. We'd have to consider the financial implications because this wasn't run, if I recall correctly, it's not run entirely on donations. They do take donations, but I think there is a bit of an amount budgeted every year as well. So, yeah, just like to ask staff to look into it.
Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion? Councillor Sampson, go ahead.
Yeah, so just to make sure we're on the same page here, Councillor Sampson, are we talking like something like the Canadian Tire Jumpstart program or stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I think to an extent, and I think that was some of the concern I heard, that some of these things can be a little difficult to go through, and it was something more simple. They had a broad range, if I recall correctly, in Kentville of what they would fund, and then somebody would put a request through. If this was approved, the Recreation Department, to my knowledge, went out and found that item and provided it and so on. And I'm not saying we have to do something exactly the same. I just thought of that as a model we could look at to explore the feasibility.
Councillor Marshall?
I just wanted to express that there is the Canadian Tire Jumpstart program out there, but you're saying they mentioned that and it was difficult?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was a fairly easy program, everybody said.
I will also say that the Jumpstart is for children. The Spike program is actually for adults. And it does stipulate, though, that for community-run programming, so I imagine through their recreation, that they could apply if they were under 18. So are you looking for it to be like young or old or both?
I think given our senior population, we would want to look at everybody. But again, this would depend on what staff comes back with and what would make sense.
Sounds good. Any other discussion on that motion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. CAO's items, the administration staff or operations report. Anybody have any questions for the CAO?
Just the Landry Lake project, you have that as kind of weekly. That's to do with easements and stuff, or? I didn't realize there was that much work.
Yeah, well, there was just 2 today, right? So, yeah, it's easements, it's legal, it's other stuff that is going on out in Point Upper. It's not necessarily just the utility itself, but yeah, it's...
So it's involved with the one above it as well?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, hearing no other questions for the CAO, we'll move on to the community acknowledgement. So that's on page 197 of your package if you're following along. I am pleased to speak tonight about March's Volunteer of the Month, Peggy McNeil. Peggy McNeil, president of the Riverdale Seniors Club, is affectionately known as the community nurse, willing to be there to support someone in need. Peggy has a deep passion for supporting homebound seniors and hospital patients in need of care, giving her time and energy wholeheartedly, and sometimes giving them a ride to and from appointments. Through her dedication to the Riverdale Seniors Club, Peggy has created opportunities for seniors to connect, form new friendships, and build stronger sense of community. Please join us in recognizing Peggy for her hard work, dedication, and commitment to her community. We thank you for all you do for Richmond County. So this is certainly a resident, but also an asset to District 3. So Councillor Marchand, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Warden. Yeah, I guess in speaking to people about Peggy, she is pretty involved in the community, and she's there when anybody, I guess, needs her. You have her down as a community nurse, but I guess she did work at the villa for a number of years. And anyone you speak to about her, she's an amazing lady, I guess. So I'd like to thank her for her volunteerism, as well as all the volunteers that we have in Richmond County, because without them, a lot of activities probably wouldn't go on. Thank you, Warden, and thank you, Peggy.
Thank you. And when I read it, I thought about the age report. It does speak to, who do people go to? They go to people not necessarily that are going to be on 211, not necessarily people that are going to be, found through your community health boards, but through the community itself. And so she certainly is, when you get the title community nurse, I can imagine. My mom was a public health nurse, and we used to get those calls a lot, so I can imagine. Is there anyone else who'd like to, any shout outs for this evening? Deputy Warden.
I'll leave that to you because I think I know one of the things from Saturday evening. But I was just going to say, unless it hasn't been acknowledged already, I was gone for a second. The volunteer of the month, although, she does reside in District 3. Long history, she grew up in District 5. So just so we're clear. Grew up in Grand River.
There you go. Is there anyone else? Councillor Membercap?
Thank you, Warden. So yeah, I do have a few things. The Deputy Warden and I had a great evening attending the fight night in St. Peter's on Saturday night, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was a sight to behold for a first-time organized event of its kind. It went off without a hitch. So a huge congratulations to the Richmond Warriors Boxing Club. I didn't know about the high level of dress code, so thank you for telling me about that, Deputy Warden. I'll dress better next time. That's apparently you're just supposed to dress fancy for these things. So, oh yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's an event. So anyways, it was really exciting. I flinched a number of times and the fists were nowhere near me. So that's how intense it was. So congrats to Matt, although he didn't win his bout and took an unfortunate right hook, I think, to the eye and broke his something in there. He did a great job, and I know he's going to be back for more. So, I also wanted to acknowledge, because I think in the last couple of weeks we've had a retirement of a long-serving municipal service provider in Gary Burke, who was retired as our garbage collector in Eastern Richmond County. He was 35 years of doing the garbage pickup of the curbside collection for Richmond County, and he has finally retired. So I spent some time with him and his wife Emma on Saturday, and I'm putting that picture, Gary, on Facebook, so if you're listening, watch out for it. I made him take a picture with me. So his daughters, Kim and Lori, I grew up with, and I know that they're really proud of his efforts, and it's been an incredible career. So congrats to him on his retirement. I also wanted to congratulate the organizers of the Freddie McNeil Memorial Royals Tournament. Okay, so I'll ask you to comment on that, but I know that Leon and Joan and Natasha, they did a great job, and they did send a note with a special thanks to Shannon Ronaldo and the arena team for all the support that they provided. And I have one more, but maybe I'll hand it over to you, Councillor, if you wanted to add to that.
That's
Okay.
I would like to echo the words of Councillor Mumbercat. The tournament that was put on last weekend, the Freddie McNeil Memorial Tournament, was excellent. The staff at the arena as well. I had a lot of compliments from people that I sat next to, commenting on the arena for the vintage of the arena. That one of them even told me, I was speaking with our director, for a 50-year-old arena, it looks pretty good, So compliments to the staff and the volunteers at the Freddie McNeil tournament.
Sorry, there's lots going on. It's been a busy month. But I do want to say I had the honor of emceeing the Community of Care Awards Gala that was hosted by Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. So a huge congratulations to Gina and her team for pulling off another beautiful event. I think it's so important that we recruit healthcare professionals, but also equally important that we recognize the efforts of the people who are here now, doing the daily grind of keeping us healthy and supporting our community health outcomes. So specifically, we had, I think, 13 award winners or 11 award winners. So I just want to name them very quickly. Janet McIsaac, Mallory McLaughlin, Pauline Sampson, Margie Ellis, Sandy Fougier, Holly McDonald, Kyle Stanton, Shelley Marchand, Courtney Marchand, and Brittany Sampson at the Yellow Rose and Company, and of course, the fabulous Jade Richard. So she put all of the award winners to shame with her fabulous speech, and I may have cried a little bit on the stage listening to her because she talked about the residents at St. Anne's Centre as, being like her other memes and pepes, and you can never have enough of those. And it was really touching. And I know Brian and Brent, you were both there to see that as well. So I will leave it at that. But it was one for the record books, in my opinion. So.
Great, and it's also great to see. Gina mentioned this when she was here. the value of personalizing those congratulations on social media. So to see over the course of a week or two, to see the recognition, and then people got a chance to kind of comment on, you know, one of the people who won had been the ambulance driver who took my own son to the hospital. So, you know, the compassion and what they bring to is really exceptional. So it was great to see it in each of those formats. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, you know, when it comes to the healthcare professionals and people working in the healthcare industry, in medicine and paramedics and doctors and nurses and in nursing homes, and for me, I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like these people are all angels on earth, in my opinion. They're, you know, they'll never get enough recognition, in my opinion. But you mentioned Jade Rashore, Councilor Marquette. She's in my district, and how great is that a 10-year-old is recognized for her work in her volunteering at the St. Anne Centre. That melts my heart, you know, and that's incredible, right? So, and I heard a funny story, and I think you can, I'm not sure if you can confirm this, Warden, but when it came to the Premier's visit to the St. Anne Centre way back when, Jade got wind that the Premier was visiting the St. Anne Centre, and she seen the tour bus there, and she's like, well, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. And it had to do with bagels, I think, or something, with the St. Anne Centre or up here at the school or whatever it was like, I'm going to discuss this with the Premier, to the point where he told our MLA, do what you got to do for this girl, right? To do what you have to do, right? So good on her and good on all these people that got recognized. And again, it's great stuff. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. I didn't know that story, but I saw the picture of them together. So yeah, that's great. I would like to say, give a shout out to the organizers and chaperones of the Dream trip to Disney. We got back last night. The amount of fundraising that they did and how engaged they were. And so, you know, the people who organized that team, Barb and her team, could really do that for a living, number one. And number two, it was like incredibly hot, and these chaperones just were nonstop, and so there couldn't have been people who were better to travel with, and so I tip my hat to the opportunity that they provided to those young people. So, great story.
Nice to rub it in.
It is a little, yeah. Did I mention I'm retired too? Yeah. So, oh, go ahead.
So I'll have one more. And you triggered my memory, Councilor Marquette, so thank you for doing that. When it comes to our public works workers in our public works department, I think we have to recognize a fella that's in my district that just retired from our public works department after 30 years, Chris, of service, or very close to it, Kevin Party. So I just want to thank Kevin for everything he's done for this county over the past 30 years or so, and just want to wish him and his family well in his retirement, and just thank him for everything.
Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to correspondence. There is only one that requires action, and that is from the Straight Richmond Healthcare Foundation. And just to clarify, we wrote a letter to the, it's actually in the package, I believe, to the Minister of Health and Wellness, and we made a motion, voted on it, and it passed, to send the request for donation to this cause to budget deliberations. However, this letter is under action required because they are asking for a letter that they would own and could sort of pass along as need be. So I'd be looking for a motion for the Committee of the Whole to recommend to Council that Warden send that letter. So moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson. Any concerns about that? Didn't think so. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. And the two other letters that I wrote as a result of last month's meeting, the one about the CT scanner at the Strait, and the one about the CMHC. Those are included in your packages on page 1, from 199 to 202. And then there is a letter from Dave Ritzie, Minister Dave Ritzie, regarding the application of letter of authority, which I thought was just an interesting, so it has been, the decision has been, is now being held in CCTH as opposed to Natural Resources. So just some information for our future business there. So we have, any questions on any of those? No? So we have some unfinished business, the St. Peter's, Grand River, Loch Lomond Pastoral Charge Grant Request for Type 4. So there's a verbal update on that. And I'm guessing it's from you? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, we looked into this one when this one first came to council, and it turned out we did have an extra, well, not an extra, we had an AED, we had access to an AED that would satisfy this request, and then we applied for another one through another grant to replace that one, so that we have fulfilled our complement again and satisfied theirs without any cost to the municipality. So.
Great. Okay. Yep. Okay. So review of checks issued from the month of March are from pages 204 to 209. Don't know if anybody has any questions for the CAO there. And if not, there is also the review of action items from pages 210 to 216. Do you have a question about the checks?
No.
About the action items. So we'll move on to action items. So if you have any questions, Councillor Marchand?
No. I'm okay.
Oh, sorry, okay. You were a little fuzzy with my glasses on there, sorry. Okay, so items added to the agenda, there was none. So we'll open it up for a 15-minute question period. Our folks in the gallery have left, but we'll remind people that the phone number is 226-9885. There is a slight delay, so we'll take a listen to see if anybody has any questions for us. Yeah, I think we're good. It always catches me, though. Okay, so.
They're probably watching us.
Yeah. So hearing no questions coming in from the phone line, and that there's no further business on the agenda, this committee of the whole meeting is adjourned.
Sure.